Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Geezers. I'm Wild Bill, the host, and the co-host over here.
I'm Pete. How's everybody doing? Hope you like us in the new studio. I think it's a little brighter, a little more airy, right? New location, but same two geezers, right? Basically.
Yeah, I've been away for quite a few months, busy taking care of my parents, so been popping in when I get a chance, and yeah, did a move recently. I wasn't going to say anything, but as you can see, there's a different background.
That's right. That's great.
Happy to move along.
That's right. That's right.
So we're going to do an inside the cover of, going with DC this time. I'm going to do the Spectre. This is volume 2. This is from January of 1993 when I was winding down in my collection years. Right around when I was starting to stop.
Before starting up again.
Yes. Back in 2016.
So here you can see exactly when. So if you're familiar, if you've been following movies over the last 30, 35 years, you can tell that this is a 90s comic right here.
Yes.
Cool cover
So
arts.
we got
Fabry? G. Fabry? I don't know.
we got John Ostrander is the writer, and Todd Klein is the letterer. Tom Mandrake is your artist, and Dan Raspler is your editor. And the colorist, of course, is the Digital Chameleon. So, I like the cover. The very first cover I have 2 copies of, which is a glow-in-the-dark book. Glow-in-the-dark cover.
Oh, let's get two copies of this one.
I have 2 copies of number 1, yes. I think I've shown it off before. I've definitely shown it off before. So we have Jim Corrigan is our private detective.
That's right.
He's the Spectre.
Yeah.
So he sees this spirit, and he goes up to her. He knows that he's seeing that she's being murdered. And he's like, "Who murdered you?" And she like disappears on him, and he's like, "I will avenge your death," And she doesn't answer him, and that bugs him even more, intrigues him, to find out. We'll. He's gonna look into this, So meanwhile, on the other side of town, we have this lady looking. Her name is Amy Bitterman. And she's looking for Jim Corrigan, the private detective. And of course, she runs into a spirit. So she kind of freaks out and runs right into his apartment. And who's waiting but Madame Xanadu? And Madame Xanadu's like, here, are you looking for Jim? And so Amy leaves her card, and Madame Xanadu does the same. Says, Amy, if you see him first, you tell him I'm looking for him too.
Everybody's looking for this guy.
And meanwhile, the spirit that the Spectre saw of the murdered woman, that murdered spirit's hanging with Madame Xanadu. So now we get back, we jump around again. We've got a little detective scene here where they're checking out a murder scene. And Jim Corrigan shows up and he starts talking to this deputy, and the deputy starts getting all hot with him, like, "Hey, we don't take kindly to strangers coming around here poking your nose in our business, officer." Then he puts the Jedi mindfuck on him. He's like, "Or, we could answer any of your questions. We'll be willing to oblige you," And meanwhile, the sheriff says to him, "Who are you talking to, man?" There's nobody there. Yeah, check out your comic book ads. Totally different.
Yes.
Video games.
Yeah, that's nice.
So you got this deputy over here talking to nobody. He's talking to Jim Corrigan, but there's nobody there really, because he's a ghost spirit. So back to the murder victim. Her name was Judith, and the most likely suspect is Michael Landau. And here he is in his cell, and he's being sent to hell. He's like kind of like on trial with Satan, and he's like pleading his case, like, "This is madness. I didn't murder her." And as this is going on, the Spectre shows up, right? And he's like, "I believe you, Michael Landau. I believe you. Your innocence." But Michael Landau up here, he's bugging. He can't take the grief anymore, and he actually hangs himself.
I was gonna say, yeah. Oof.
He hangs himself. And meanwhile, back on the other side of town, you got the Spectre pays it, well, as in Jim Corrigan format, he pays a visit to William Martindale, who is the prime suspect after you rule out Michael Landau, who just killed himself. So that's why the Spectre is showing up over here as Jim Corrigan to get some answers out of this guy. So he throws him into his chair. The guy's like, I got my rights, and I got my attorney. I can talk. I don't need to talk to you. So he's like, no, you don't have to talk to me, but I wind up sucking it out of your face, So he gets into his soul, and then there's this dude who kind of throws this whip around the Spectre, and he's like, you're in my domain now. So this is all going inside this guy's soul. And the Spectre finds out that this guy didn't murder Judith either. But that he's okay with taking the rap. Like, it strokes his ego if people think that he's the one that committed the crime. So he realizes that this guy's not the murderer either. So he goes back to Judith's grave, and he runs into this woman here, and he's like, oh. She's like, oh, who are you? And he's like, oh, Judith. And she's like, no, I'm her twin sister. I'm Jacqueline. Actually, I gotta say this backwards. She's Judith. It was Jacqueline who was murdered.
Got you. It's like, Judith, well, I am the
harbinger
like, of judgment.
Yeah, she's like, no, I'm Judith. So anyway, she bugs out, and he tries to probe her mind, probe her soul, and she's putting up all these barriers as he's trying to get through to her soul and see, like, look into the windows of her soul or her eyes, and he's finding all these barriers, and he's like, what the hell? And he finds out that she's the one who killed her sister.
Aha.
That's why she had all the barriers up.
The truth comes out.
Truth comes out. So, gotta have some judgment, right? So he starts chasing her down. And she can't take the grief. And she says that, the only reason why she did it was her parents, she was the goody two-shoes, Judith, all the time. And what she was doing was wrong for the parents. So that's why she interfered, and she wouldn't listen. So she didn't mean to kill her. But when the other guy took the rap, hey, why not? It worked out to convenience, And then she wound up. We don't know if the Spectre bit her or pushed her over or she jumped off. But either way, she fell off the cliff, and justice was served.
Justice was served by the avenging angel.
Spectre. Yeah. More advertisements. The aftermath. He goes back to the spirit, and she keeps reliving her murder. And he's like, I solved your murder, but I can't solve your grief. Like, the mystery of why you keep reliving your death over and over again. I'm sorry, I failed you. He still feels like he failed her, even though he avenged her death. So kind of a lose-lose situation there.
Sounds like it.
Then we have more plot developing story for the next issue, which I didn't buy. And I didn't buy this Batman either.
Blue-gray bat?
Blue-gray bat. Looks interesting. Looks like Batman of the Wild West.
Yeah.
So there you have it, gang. Inside the cover of the Spectre Volume 2, Number 2.
Number 2.
From Comic Book Geezers. Here you are. So, please click the like button. The notification bell. Click the notification bell so you'll be kept in the loop every time we have a new video. And we thank you for your comments and your suggestions. And we look forward to seeing you again on Comic Book Geezers. So I'm Wild Bill saying thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
And I'm Pete. Thanks for watching. Please tell your friends about Comic Book Geezers and click that like button before you leave. And leave some comments, right? We love the comments. So put that down below. And we'll see you real soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.